Welcome to Fetts Legacy, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars as a whole and Mandalorian Season 3, the first episode, and actually a little bit about Episode 11 of The Bad Batch Season 2. But guys, before we get into that, I just want to say a quick thank you for all the support. Hit that like button and subscribe so you can help me hit my goal of 500 subscribers to start the new Amazon gift card giveaway of this channel. It would really mean a lot to me if we could hit 500 subscribers, guys, and I appreciate any support you guys can give. What this video is really about is about the lack of consequences in Star Wars. And so we just saw in Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 1 that Din Djarin is looking to bring back IG-11. And now, while that is really cool, I did really like IG-11 in Season 1, and I think he's a fantastic droid. I like the droid model. They're really cool, really dangerous, and are actually some of the coolest droids in all of Star Wars, in my opinion, if not the coolest. And so it is really cool to see him. It might be amazing to see him come back even, but we have to take a look at how he died in Season 1, where he sacrificed himself to save the others by literally blowing himself up in a lava pit. So, you know, it does seem kind of crazy that he has enough components and has enough parts, and he's even intact enough to be able to be remade for Din Djarin. And I know this is to have Din Djarin kind of go on like a side adventure that doesn't seem like just wasted time and isn't just completely filler. And I understand why they're doing this, and this is the only droid that Din actually trusts. And so, like I said, it would be great to see him back, but we have to take a look at the consequences of actions in Star Wars and media as a whole, as it just seems like Star Wars now has kind of become to the point where no one can die. You know, someone dies and you'll just be thinking, oh, they'll be back next season, they'll be back in a few shows, someone will save them, they'll be healed, they'll hold on to the dark side of the Force, to their hatred. There's no consequences for anything at this point, and even I've been a culprit of this, saying people should come back. I do understand, you know, not everyone should die right away in Star Wars. There's a lot of ways to live, and I'm not saying that IG-11 should just stay dead, he shouldn't come back. That's not exactly what I'm saying. I just feel like it's gotten to the point in Star Wars now where everyone you think is dead, you still have it in the back of your mind like, oh, they're going to come back. And it's kind of ruined the consequences of anything in Star Wars at this point. And, you know, even I wanted Boba Fett to return for a long time. He was considered dead. I mean, him escaping the Sarlacc makes sense. He is a feared bounty hunter. He does have the Mandalorian Beskar armor. And he was considered the best bounty hunter in the entire galaxy, with a jetpack, with a bunch of different gadgets to escape something like the Sarlacc pit. But even him, you know, you could say lack of consequence. He did fall into the Sarlacc in Return of the Jedi, and so many people thought he was dead, and many people wrote him off as a character. Same thing with like Darth Maul, perhaps, who was literally cut in half and thrown down a shaft on Naboo by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Considering he was literally cut in half, you would assume that no way anyone could survive this. He should be dead. Palpatine was electrocuted and thrown down a shaft that exploded, and he somehow returned. And so it just feels like, you know, there's kind of becoming a place in Star Wars where there's no consequence. When anyone dies, I automatically think, oh, they're not dead. Even in Book of Boba Fett, we did see Marshal Cobb Vanth get shot by Cad Bane, and we see him later on in the post-credits scene being revived in a bacta tank, and he's going to be worked on by the modder to basically make him some sort of cyborg so he can basically stay alive. I didn't think that Cobb Vanth should have died, and I do think it makes sense for him to stay alive. It seemed like an anticlimactic way for him to go, but it just seems like, you know, like, what's the point of even hinting at his death if literally a couple episodes later and in the post-credit scene, it's going to show that he's alive. Fennec Shand even was dead and Boba Fett saved her, and I know we got the hint of that right away, that she was going to be rescued, so I'm not as mad about that, because literally at the end of that episode, we do see someone walking up to Fennec Shand's body at the end, assuming that someone was going to save her. I did hear the spurs on the boots and immediately thought Boba Fett, and a lot of people called me crazy for that, saying, why would Boba Fett be there? How could Boba Fett save Fennec Shand? How could that even be Boba Fett? He's still in the Sarlacc pit. And it turns out Boba Fett returned. But not to toot my own horn on that one, I just want to bring up the fact that even when someone dies in an episode, even in the same episode, it could be hinted that they're going to come back. And even, again, I have said that I want certain characters that are dead to return, especially Mace Windu. I have made my thoughts clear on this. I want Mace Windu to return for the Book of Boba Fett Season 2. That would make me very happy. I want to see Mace Windu and Boba Fett interact. But it would just be another character that was considered dead who ends up returning out of nowhere and ruining the consequences of anything in Star Wars. Another example even is Cad Bane in the Book of Boba Fett. Now we don't know if he's still alive at this point or if he will survive what happened to him after being defeated by Boba Fett and impaled through the chest by his gaffy stick. So we can't say for sure, but we do see something flashing on his chest. I did make a video about this, talking about if Cad Bane is alive or not. And yeah, so it could be possible that he ends up getting rescued and saved by his droid, and somehow he ends up surviving. I'm not sure exactly what that flashing thing was on his chest, but there is a big possibility there that he's still alive, and so that's just another person. We even saw, obviously, in The Mandalorian IG-11, but then in Bad Batch Season 2, we just saw that Lama Su is still alive. He was not on Kamino when they destroyed Topoka City. He was away on another planet. So the Prime Minister of Kamino, you would assume, would be dead after Kamino being destroyed, but it turns out he is alive. And so it just turns out that another character that you would expect to be dead after blowing up his home world, you would expect that he would be dead along with it, but no, he is still alive and a part of the story. It just adds to the feeling of Star Wars not having any consequences, and like we will just see the character return in a later episode or a later season of something, and they'll die again. You know what I mean? It just feels like there's no consequences to anything anymore. And that is a big hit on Star Wars. And sometimes it can be used correctly, you know, where I think like Darth Maul coming back and getting more of a character, getting fleshed out, holding on to his hatred for all those years. I felt like that was actually handled really well. I'm not saying that all of these characters shouldn't have come back and they were handled poorly and they all should have stayed dead. That's not my point here. I do think that some characters should have returned and did return, and it was done well. So Darth Maul is a fantastic example of how it can be done well and correct, how they bring him back and give him a great story arc and give him a lot more character depth than just being the cool Sith beside Palpatine, who obviously is not just a cool looking Sith. He fights with a different style that we don't really see. He has the double-bladed lightsaber, which that was the first time we had ever seen something like that. Obviously, he does look absolutely menacing and really cool. His personality is very dark and creepy and vengeful. He's a great character, don't get me wrong, and I'm happy that they brought him back, but he didn't have much to do or say in The Phantom Menace, and they brought him back in the Clone Wars and Rebels and really made him a strong part of Star Wars and a main character that many fans absolutely love, way more than they would have if he never came back. And so clearly they handled bringing Darth Maul back well, but sometimes when you bring a character back, it doesn't always end well. Just like, think about Palpatine, for instance. I feel like he should have stayed dead. I feel like bringing him back, obviously seeing Palpatine again was absolutely amazing. He was super powerful and scary, and he did end up being one of my favorite parts of the sequel trilogy, probably my favorite part about that movie. It just didn't make sense for him to return lore-wise, and just the scale and kind of just diminishing everything that Anakin/Luke had really accomplished in the original trilogy. I felt like it was kind of all thrown out the window by bringing Palpatine back. So obviously he was one of the best parts of the movie and one of the best parts of the sequels, but I still don't think he should have returned. It ruins a lot of the consequence of the entire original trilogy, and I feel like it was just a waste to bring him back when they could have just fleshed things out with Snoke and really made him into a better villain, or even have Kylo Ren really take it up a notch and become a better villain, Rey turn to the dark side. Now, I don't want this video to be about the sequels, but I just feel like sometimes when you bring a character back, it can have a negative effect on the story you're trying to tell or on the characters around it. And so I do think that they really have to be careful from now on when they're bringing characters back. You know, Cad Bane could come back in Book of Boba Fett Season 2. It looks like IG-11 will be returning. We have already talked about Mace Windu having a potential return. So we'll see what happens in the future with characters coming back from the dead. But I do think it's become a bit much now, and I am a bit skeptical about anyone dying at this point. You know, obviously, Cobb Vanth will be back soon. We might even see him in Mandalorian Season 3. I hope we do, but I just want to see some consequences in Star Wars and see what really happens to characters and show me that they're actually dead at this point. Because if I don't see that they're actually dead, then I'm going to believe that they're going to come back at some point. That's just the way Star Wars has been heading. Anyway, guys, those are just my thoughts on the lack of consequences in Star Wars currently in the Disney era. We've seen it recently in The Mandalorian, in The Bad Batch, and in the Book of Boba Fett. And I'm just wondering, where is it going to end? Or are they just going to continue with this cycle of bringing everyone back? Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think that all these characters coming back is something good for the franchise? Or do you think it's a bit of a mixed bag? Or do you think they should just keep all of these characters dead? Once they die, they should stay dead. Please let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. I look forward to seeing your responses. Anyway, guys, thank you all for watching the video, and I'll see you guys next time.